What's going on, everybody? Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net. Today I'm doing a complete match analysis breakdown on Felix Mischker from Tennis Brothers. Current UTR, right? 12.2. Has an ATP Tour singles and doubles ranking. And is also one of the most popular tennis playing YouTubers in the world. If you want to see what his strengths and weaknesses are, stay tuned. It's coming up next. Before I jump into the analysis itself, it's important to know where this footage came from. It came from Carousel's YouTube channel, right? Top 300 of the world. They played a practice set against each other where Felix was the server and Carew was the returner because Carew was dealing with an injury situation. So this set play and footage came from his channel. Go check out Carew's channel and support him over there. So just quickly, Felix's major strengths, things watching him play. His movement is a major weapon. He moves extremely well, defends very well, very explosive, shows good athleticism on the court. Tough to hit a winner on Felix, just tough to get a ball by him unless you have a very easy shot to finish the point with. Second major weapon for Felix besides movement is going to be his serve. Gets a lot of really good pop on his serve, gets some free points on his serve. My only critique of it, again, he's only 21 years old at this point, would be it could be a little tighter to the sidelines, which will get him a few more free points, as well as some easier +1 balls on that return of serve. The last area I think Felix is really strong in is his targets on the court. He doesn't aim for the sidelines a lot. Most of the time when he does it, it's the appropriate shot to hit. I've talked a lot about big and small targets on this channel for the last 6 years. It's something that I came up with back in 2014, released the research on it back in 2017/2018. And in this match, Felix hit 91% of his shots in the big target area and just 9% in the small target area. So his targets are really good and he's playing with safe targets. So the first thing we're going to look at in Felix's game is depth on his shots in this particular practice set, using what I call the 5-zone system. I came up with this in 2014 and implemented it into all my match taking situations and analysis from 2014 on now through 2025. So the 5 zones of the court are this. We've got the service line to the net is going to be zone 1. Service line to 3/4 court is going to be zone 2. Zone 3 is 3/4 court to the baseline. From the baseline to halfway to the back wall or back fence is going to be zone 4. And then from halfway to the back fence all the way to the back fence or wall will be zone 5. So I'm tracking where you're hitting balls from, zones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where you're positioned when you hit a ball. And then I'm also tracking 1, 2, or 3 for zones where your shot is landing. So if you look at Felix's numbers in this particular match, his zone 3 shot depth was something that hurt him a little bit. He was only at 29% of his shots landing in zone 3 against Carew in this match. Zone 2, Felix was hitting 35% of his shots into zone 2 against Carew. And then zone 1, we had Felix at 36%. You might say, Jason, that's not bad. Those numbers are pretty good, 29% into zone 3. And overall, those are pretty decent numbers. But to go to a higher level, usually we're looking for a little bit more depth. If we look at Carew's depth numbers in this match, Carew hit 45% of his shots into zone 3. And that's very impressive because he was the returner server in all the games that were played in this practice set. So with all that said, let's take a look at some points now and see why Felix might be having some issues getting depth in the points. All right, so before I break it down, let's let it play once in real time. Felix serving, wide slice, Carew middle short, drives the backhand towards the middle cross, inside out little damage there, short ball, Carew small target, moves in, plays a nice safe volley, puts some pressure though, and then Felix misses long. All right, so let's go back to the beginning of the point and break it down now. All right, so again, we got Felix serving on the far side to Carew, going to the deuce side here. Carew's off camera, just zoomed in a little bit here. But again, wide slice serve. Carew moves forward. Tough to see him because he's off camera just there, but has a nice return with the forehand. It does go a little bit short, but the ball's driving low, so it's not really super attackable from a low position. When we're contacting balls from above the height of the net, from up here versus down here, up here means we can drive balls because it's being contacted from above the height of the net. When it's below the height of the net, you're forced to lift more or play a little bit more defensive unless the ball's just sitting there. But Carew drove this ball a little bit, so this one isn't sitting. So Felix goes with a little backhand slice here. Slice is a little bit short. You can hit slices short for sure. You can use it as a tactic to try to get somebody to hit up and, reach for a ball, hit something weak. But I personally wouldn't be hitting a lot of balls short to Carew's backhand just because of how good his backhand is. It's a world-class backhand. It's a very, very good shot. He loves that side and plays it really well. So if you're going to hit short to Carew here, just basically short, and give him a lot to work with, Carew can really drive balls from this position pretty easily. So again, just from here, A little slice. Crew moves forward very comfortably and then just thumps the backhand. And it's a really good shot here deeper into zone 3. It's cross court, but it's not really fully cross court to the sideline. And it's not in the middle of the court. It's sort of in between those two spots right there. And he's got Felix in a position where Felix is having to back up a little bit and he's a little bit uncomfortable. So Felix goes to hit this and he does. And what's the first thing that happens as soon as Crew hits the ball to Felix's backhand side that's driven deep, right? Felix ends up hitting short into zone 1, and Crew is just sort of sitting and waiting on this side, knowing that, hey, I've hit this really good backhand. This is the play I'm looking for. To Felix's backhand, which might be a little bit of a liability. So I'm now going to step around right away easily and look to get aggressive on the forehand off a weak ball. And that's exactly what Crew does. We talked about Felix only hitting 29% of his shots deep into zone 3, right? A lot of balls in zone 1 and 2. Why is that happening? Let's just zoom in here just a little bit around contact. It's tough to get contact sometimes. What I like to see is a player's hands, left hand, right hand here, right at contact. I like to see contact in front of the body, but hands to the left side of the hips to know that the player has proper spacing when they're hitting their backhand. Felix is a little bit jammed on this backhand. And most of the time when a player is jammed just like this, what we see right here, the hands are into the hips of the body, right? They're not outside of the hips. Balls land short or they're very weak, but usually they end up landing short. My job on this channel and my job 10 years before this was to break down pro technique and match film, and that's all that we're doing here. This is helpful to a player to point these things out because they can go work on these things, and then a few months from now or whenever they have the chance, right, it's no longer a weakness and somebody can't attack you or hurt you or do damage to this side. But this space here, this is a major issue. And then what happens when he's jammed, look where it lands. Nice little juicy ball right there for Crew, short in zone 1. That means Crew again. Zone 1 ball that's not doing anything. It's not driving. It's just kind of sitting up a little bit. Crew can really step around and rip the forehand, and he does that. And now he's got Felix on the stretch and on the dead run here to Felix's backhand again. Felix has space on this shot, right? The hands are clearly outside the hips. But the problem is when Felix hits this, right, where does it land? Nice and short, just past the service line here. Short in zone number 2, the ball is sitting up, and that means Crew can comfortably attack again, right? Crew's taking this ball between his waist and his chest, probably a little bit above the height of the net. And now Crew can easily go, if he wants to go cross, he can go safe there, cross. Crew could also go right back behind Felix and go down the line here. Crew has very good aim and precision on his shots. So a ball like this, right? He's super comfortable. He's going to go small target because he's comfortable with it. He doesn't have to, but he can. And he chooses to do that right here. Takes a little bit of an angle this time with Felix because he has Felix thinking drive, which would back Felix up. Felix is sprinting again. Shows the athleticism here. Crew anticipates a short ball, so Crew's body is already moving forward based on what he's hit to Felix and what he sees with Felix's position. He's anticipating short, comes in to hit the volley. A lot of players might make the mistake of taking this volley and thinking small target in that red area right there. It's 2 or less feet from the single sideline. On both sides is a small target. Anything in between is a big target. But again, Crew, very tactically smart player. He knows he doesn't need to play in this target area when he's got Felix this far off the court, way over here. So he's not going to do that. He's not going to play something crazy. He drives it again here, forward a little bit short because Felix was in a deep position. Felix again, running on the stretch right here, feeling a lot of pressure. And then ends up spraying the ball long. Let's move on to the second point now. All right, before I break this down, let's let it play once in real time. We got Felix serving again, far side, Crew returning. Nice poke return off a really good serve. Got a little footwork tracker there. And then the air just a little bit wide right there. So let's go ahead and break this one down now. Felix serving again. Crew with the return. Really, really good first serve here. The placement's really good. It's close enough to the center line where he's stretching Crew. And he's got it a little bit above Crew's shoulders, which that can be a really tough return. Crew's showing some really good skills with poke returns. I like to call them poke returns. Basically get a racket on the ball, just a little bit of a racket on the ball. You don't have a full follow through, but he's getting the Djokovic style, super deep returns. This is something Djokovic's been doing for well over a decade. We used to kind of look at the film of Djokovic back in the day, 2014, 2015 Djokovic, hitting these poke situation returns back then, and just kind of couldn't believe he could do it over and over again. And he still does it to this day. But He'll put a ball really deep off a return where he's got almost no follow through. And look at that, Crew's got no follow through. It's similar to Novak, no follow through. But the point is to get the ball deep because your opponent, the server, right? They've landed inside the court with their weight. They're susceptible to deep returns to the middle. This is one of the most commonly used tactics on tour. It's super simple and effective, but you poke it and get it deep, right, to the middle third of the court roughly. You get the other guy back on his back foot, backing up. And when he's backing up, it's hard to be aggressive on that backhand side in particular. So again, the poke return from Carew backs him up. And then Felix, the same exact thing we see here, a little bit jammed there. This is a short backhand in zone 1, and you don't want to do that to Carew unless you're really angling and taking him far off the court and you're doing damage. And that's not what this backhand is doing. So back it up for 1 second here. Poke from Carew, really good. Gets him on the back foot. We're going to zoom in here and highlight this. Felix's hands. Look at the hands. I know it's a blurry mess when we're zoomed in this much, but look at the hands. They're definitely inside the body area. Those hands need to be outside the body like we talked about in that first clip. He's jammed, and that jamming most often leads to a short, weak sitting shot. So let's see what happens here. There it is. And look at Carew's footwork trail. So initially, off the poke, Carew's not sure exactly what's going to happen with Felix right now. So Carew backed up a little bit here. I was smart. It's not sure, hey, maybe Felix can get really aggressive off that return, even though Carew hit deep. But again, Felix a little bit weak, a little bit short. And look at Carew's feet, how they're starting to move forward now, right? He's delivering body weight into the ball. On the side, he's super comfortable driving. He loves his backhand. So now he's going to get hyper aggressive if he wants to. He can either go deep drive cross. He go down the line to a small target from here pretty easily. Or he can go short cross. And I think he said he was working on opening up angles in this game. So let's see what he does. There's the angle. Okay. And he hits the angle without having to hit the small target. Had he hit the small target, that would be fine, but it's a little bit outside of the small target and still able to do significant damage to Felix. Felix running and sliding on the backhand here, showing that athleticism, nice wide base. And the funny thing is, on the defense, Felix gets his hands outside of his hips. This is the second clip in a row we've seen him get the proper space. But a lot of times when the ball is right at him, or it's a rally ball, he's getting jammed a little bit on his backhand, doesn't have the proper space, goes for the small target, right? Tries to kind of save himself there. Little desperation, and then the point is over. A wise tennis coach once told me 10 plus years ago that 90% of the errors that you make in tennis, if you're a high-level player, are usually footwork related. Now, that number kind of blew my mind at the time. I'd worked with and developed a lot of really good juniors back in that time period. I was working with somebody who was above my level, who'd worked at the pro tour level, and it was a really interesting thing to say that high-level players made most of their mistakes because of footwork related and position related issues on the court. So with that thought in mind, let's break down a little bit more point play from Felix. All right, so before I break it down, let's let it play once in real time. Felix serving near side, slice to the body, and then misses the forehand small target there. Let's go ahead and jump in and break this down real quick. And we'll see exactly what we're talking about. So Felix, again, due side serving. I like his serve quite a bit. I do think sometimes it can be a little tighter down the tee here, closer to the lines on both sides. Doesn't need to be on the line, but just tighter with the placement. He's got a lot of pop on it. And he slices, right? You see the slice coming. See him carving around the ball. And then going into the hip of Carew, trying to jam him here. Carew does a pretty good job with this, trying to get out of the way, but it landed right in the middle of the service box. Carew steps around. He does hit short. And this ball gives Felix a chance to kind of get aggressive and try to pounce and get aggressive and do damage on the next shot. The issue that we see with Felix here is he doesn't have enough space at contact. Look at Felix's right elbow and then look at his hip. And I know he's got a shirt on that's a little bit baggy, but he doesn't have enough space at contact with the ball. When players don't have the right space on a shot like this, they can feel it. They can feel if the distance is off a little bit, whether they're too close to the ball or whether they're reaching, whatever the problem is, they can usually feel it. So in this situation, I'm 99% positive Felix could feel this, and he still went for a huge winner, regardless of what he could feel with his spacing. He's also down 15-40 in the score in this particular situation, so he's got double break point against him. So to go for this type of shot, down double break point, practice set or not, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's move on to the next point now. All right, so let's let this one play once in real time before we break it down. Felix serving again, due side, wide slice again, Carew loopy ball. And then Felix with kind of the bad miss there. And we're going to look at exactly why he missed on this particular shot. So again, love the pop on the serve. He's got a live arm, gets quite a bit of juice on it. Wide slice, a little bit more towards the center of the box than you'd want. You typically want this a little bit wider. So right in Caru's wheelhouse, takes it right about shoulder height here, which is again, comfortable for players at this level. You should be able to take balls at shoulder height all day long. Caru, no problem with that ball. Hits a loopier shot, kind of a little bit of the Rafa finish there, right? Little lasso. So lifts it, and it's a decent ball, but it's sitting around zone 1. It comes up, and then Felix nets this pretty easily. The question is, why did Felix net this? Again, we know that a lot of errors and misses at this level are related to footwork and positioning. That's usually what breaks down just a little bit. So watch Felix here. Everything looks fine, but I want you to pay close attention to his space to the ball again in a different way. So in the first point, I commented that Felix had his elbow too close to his body, right? Now, in this particular one, the elbow spacing doesn't look particularly bad. He has a good gap between his elbow and his body here, but it's hard to tell. He is reaching a little bit too far forward on this particular forehand. And because he's reaching forward, it's not quite in his strike zone. It'd be like a boxer boxing against somebody and their face is close to your glove, but it's just a little bit too far away from your glove to deliver the big knockout punch. So you graze them a little bit instead of delivering the knockout. That's the situation here. And the reason you know it is because not just this position here where he looks like he's reaching a little bit. Watch his legs when he finishes the shot. He finishes in an extremely uncomfortable position. Players usually don't finish with kind of a squat jump at the end of their forehand, right? Unless they're reaching for the ball, they're not quite in position. Now, did the ball take a bad bounce on him because all the topspin Caru had on the shot? I'm not sure why that happened, but I know he's reaching a little bit, and then look at that finish. It's not the normal finish you see on a forehand side. So here he's reaching too much. On the previous one, right? The ball was too close to him. These are position and footwork errors. And Felix has to know, hey, I'm reaching for the shot here. I don't need to go for a home run on this shot because I'm likely to miss the ball. He needs to feel that and understand when to pull off and place safer targets when he's in these type of situations where his positioning isn't perfect. And if it's not perfect enough with the positioning, then he needs to work on it and get better with his spacing on shots. All right, and the last thing we're going to look at in Felix's game is really his ability to finish points at the net. Now, I do think most of the time he looks pretty comfortable and solid at the net. It can be difficult when you're playing an opponent like Caru, who's a UTR 14 plus. In those types of situations, mentally, you can kind of press a little bit and try to do too much with the ball, and maybe that's what happened here. But Felix only won 2 out of 8 points at the net against Caru in this set. Definitely needs to be more comfortable and convert at the net against someone of Caru's level, right? So with that in mind, let's jump into the first point, but let it play once in real time before we analyze it. Felix serving, second serve kick. Caru steps out of the way, small target from Felix, and then dumps that volley into the net. Let's go back for a second here, break this down. We know we've got a second serve from Felix here. We can see that ball toss position kind of arching back behind the body, right? He has a nice second serve, so he pops that with some good spin and really good accuracy for a second as well. A lot of seconds go to the body, but this one was towards the tee. Caru does a good job here of maintaining his space. Look at his elbow there, maintaining his space while stepping around to hit the forehand return. That's not always the easiest thing to do. So really good precise movement there, steps around, tries to lift it, but hits the ball short in zone 1, which gives Felix the chance to come forward now and get aggressive because the ball is not pushing him back. Zone 1s that sit up, these are your chances to get really aggressive because you have a chance to load your body and get on top of that ball. And that's what Felix is going to do. Right here on this forehand right here, takes it, gets aggressive, and goes to a small target here. Remember, we talked about Felix's targets, 91% big targets and just 9% small. I love those percentages. Those percentages fall in line with something we see from the top players in the world. So his targets are good. He goes for small targets at the right times. So he takes one here. The only thing I wish was a little bit better about this particular one, I wish this ball landed a little bit deeper back here, not on the baseline necessarily, but just deeper, pushing Caru even further back. Because Caru gets over here, it's tough to see him at this point. He's off the screen, but he slides into that backhand where he's got great control. And then Felix has the finishing volley. But when Felix moves up to this volley, could be pressure, could be anything, He just kind of stutter stepped here, looks a little bit tight, looks like he's feeling the pressure, and he tries to drop the cute volley short and then hits it in the net. It would have been easier to drop the volley short, little less pressure, if the approach here didn't land like a foot or two past the service line. If that approach was a little bit deeper on this particular shot, Crew probably would have been even further back and off the screen, hitting this backhand pass, which means he's further from Felix, and it would have been easier to pull off this drop. Another thing I would like to see Felix do here, if that approach isn't deeper, he doesn't have to drop it short. Maybe you take this volley, just drive it deep here, or you hit it short and drive it here to try to force Crew to pop up the next one to you so you can get a really easy shot on the next ball and make it a two-shot volley instead of trying to hit a winner on the first volley. Let's move on to the next point now. All right, so before we break this one down, let's let it play once in real time. Felix second serve, Crew short forehand return, Felix short forehand approach, and then Crew up the line safely and easily, and Felix misses the volley. So let's back it up for a second and break this one down. Second serve, kick. Crew steps around again. Forehand is a little bit short, but it doesn't really sit up that much to me on this. Felix takes it from a relatively low contact point, right around waist height. And the mistake here with Felix, the game score here is actually 5-6 Felix down, right? Playing a set, and it's love. So maybe he's trying to throw Crew off with a different type of tactic or whatever, mixing things up. But he ends up hitting this rifle shot forehand here, short inside zone 1. And if we look at Crew, right? Does he look bothered to you at all? He's not bothered at all, right? Against a player at this level, if you're just hitting pace right to waist height to them, they're going to be super comfortable and do whatever they want with the ball, essentially, as long as you don't have them on the run or whatever. So again, Felix here rips it right into Crew's strike zone, just above waist height. Crew's super comfy here, and he's really good at controlling the ball. He directs it very well, and he rips it down the line, gets Felix into this stretch position, and then Felix dumps it into the net. So what don't I like about this point? I don't like the fact that he took this ball from Crew here, and maybe he didn't mean to, but he just hits a short ball that's not doing anything to Crew. A player at this level is not going to be bothered by a little bit of pace, short, right in their strike zone, and Crew comfortably guides it. Felix is charging in now off a low percentage shot, and there's just no way you're going to win net points against somebody at Crew's level doing stuff like that. It's a low percentage play against a player at that level, especially at 5-6 down, and love in that game. All right, guys, and just some quick stats at the end here. I talk about damage on this channel a lot. That's a term I came up with back in 2014. Damage basically means that you hurt your opponent a point. It's essentially the same thing. I like damage better for a couple different reasons that I'm not even going to get into in this video, but the damage battle in this match, right? The number of times that the opponent got hurt by the other person's shots, damage here was Felix 11. He did damage to Crew 11 times, and Crew did damage to Felix 46 times in this match. And if you had to ask me who is swinging their racket faster and going for bigger shots, I would definitely say it's Felix, right? But Crew is doing the damage in a little bit of different ways. He's taking a little bit of time away. He's got these long, fluid strokes that are producing more balls in zone 3. And why is zone 3 such a big deal? Not that you need to hit all of your shots there. Certainly you don't. That's not the case. It opens things up for different things. Now, when you're hitting into zone 3 consistently and you're driving those balls like Crew is, he's really forcing guys back or forcing them to take balls super early, which is uncomfortable. And if you don't take the ball perfectly when you take it early, your ball is going to sit up on the other side, and as soon as your ball sits up, it's lights out against somebody at that level. They're in control. You're in big trouble now. So again, Crew did the damage while having probably overall less racket speed than Felix in this match. It's something to know at home that yes, you want racket head speed to some level, but depth is such a huge weapon at this level. And if you can hit deep, you're going to force your opponent to do one of three things. Either take the ball on the rise, take it at its apex, or take the ball on the fall, which means you have to back really far up behind the baseline, which now opens up the front parts of the court. The way I explain it to players is when you hit zone 3 balls that are driving type shots, you're basically forcing your opponent to pick some type of poison with their next shot unless they're an incredible player. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this complete match analysis breakdown of Felix Mischker's tennis game. If you found this video helpful or you feel like you learned something today, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'm Jason Frausto for tennisunleashed.net. I'll see you next time.